Weaving on a loom is a lot like painting, except you're using yarn. Today I'm going to show you how to use an ordinary piece of cardboard to create your own loom for weaving. The first thing you need to do is grab a ruler and draw a line about ½ inch away from each side of your cardboard. Then you need to measure lines going all the way up the side. These are about ½ inch apart from each other. I could have used centimeters, I could have used ½ centimeters. What really matters is that you have the same number of lines on the left side of your loom as you have on the right side. Grab your scissors and make little cuts going down both sides of the loom again. And that's going to be your frame for weaving. The next step is going to be to wrap the warp threads. The warp threads are the ones that don't move. You're going to attach them to your frame, and then those are the threads that you're going to be weaving in and out of. When you're wrapping your warp threads, you're going to leave the string attached to the spool of yarn. You don't really know yet how long you need that string to be, so leave it attached. It's actually easier if you put it down on the floor to keep it from rolling around. And when you're finished, you're going to tie those two strings across the back. You want to make this pretty tight so the strings don't stretch too much. Make a double knot, and then you can cut your yarn away from the spool. Now it's time to start weaving with the weft threads. One way you can remember that is you're going to be weaving from left to right. This time you are going to cut the yarn before you start weaving. After you thread your needle, you can tie a knot to help keep that yarn put while you're weaving. And then something that I find pretty helpful is to run a ruler underneath all of those warp threads. If you turn it sideways, it's going to separate the yarn from the cardboard and just make it a little bit easier for your fingers to move in and out. So I've already woven my first row. You're just going to start and go over, under, over, under, over, under, all the way across. Notice that I pulled it until there was just a little short piece of yarn left over. Before you start weaving your second row, it's really important that you take a look at where you left off. That pink string ended underneath the blue yarn. So what that means is on my way back, I have to start over the blue yarn. Be careful not to pull too tightly at the end of each row, or your end strings will start to pull in and create an hourglass shape instead of a nice straight rectangle. So keep weaving until you use up that first piece of yarn, and then you're going to have a couple of options. One option is to try to end your weaving with the yarn somewhere in the middle. You can just cut the yarn off of your needle and leave it right where it lands. When you're ready to add your next color, you can just start it where the other one left off, right there in the middle. Just start pulling your yarn through and again start weaving back and forth. There's another method you can try that involves hiding the end of your yarn in part of your weaving. Each time you start a new row of weaving, you're wrapping around that outside thread, which sort of creates a tunnel. Notice how I'm passing my needle through 5 or 6 of those little loops at the end of my weaving, and when I cut it off, the end of the yarn just gets hidden inside there. In the next class, I'm going to show you how to do a few more complicated weaving patterns, but I feel like that should be enough information to get you started. So go get a piece of cardboard and start creating your loom.